So, today we're diving into the story of a man who found this really profound inner peace. But his journey didn't start where you might think. It actually started from a place of, well, total chaos and deceit. And this right here, this is a pretty stark confession from the man himself, Kunat. I mean, that's where he was starting from. A life literally built on using other people for his own benefit and seeing himself as a liar. To really get a handle on this transformation, you've got to understand the chaos he came from. Because before he ever found peace, his life was anything but calm. You know, his whole life was basically built on pure self-interest. He himself called it an extreme lifestyle. And morality, yeah, that just wasn't even part of the equation. The goal was simple: get what he wanted. And lying? That was just the easiest tool to make it happen. But all of that came with a price. This constant churning chaos inside him that just would not go away. And you know, from the outside looking in, you'd probably think he had it all figured out. He was getting everything he wanted. But on the inside, all that success just felt hollow. He hit this point where he was just completely empty inside. And that was the breaking point that pushed him to do something radical. So right there, at his absolute lowest, feeling totally empty, he takes on this challenge that would completely change the entire course of his life: a 10-day silent meditation retreat. Okay, now, take a look at these rules. They seem simple enough, right? But think about it. This is incredibly demanding. For 10 straight days, absolutely no connection to the outside world, no talking, and just one single focus: your breath. This was not a vacation. This was a total and complete break from his old life and his old self. And yeah, it was anything but a walk in the park. He literally described the first few days as torture. Because once all that external noise disappeared, the internal noise, it just got louder and louder and louder. In all that silence, every lie he'd ever told, every person he'd ever hurt, it all came rushing back. And this quote, man, it just captures the whole process perfectly. He called it a detox of defilements. It's like this painful but totally necessary purge of all the internal junk he'd been carrying around for years. But here's the thing. Out of that really brutal experience, something new started to grow. A completely new internal foundation began to take shape, one that would support a totally new way of living. So a huge part of this whole practice was committing to something called sila. These are basically moral precepts. It meant making an active choice to stop the harmful stuff. No more lying, no more hurting people. This wasn't just some rule he had to follow. It became the actual foundation that let his mind finally start to quiet down. And the results? It was immediate, and it was profound. Just by stopping those old, destructive habits, he said his mind felt lighter. Can you imagine? It was like he'd finally put down this huge, invisible backpack he'd been lugging around his whole life. It really was a fresh start. I mean, just look at this. The contrast between the old self and the new self, it's just staggering. This isn't some small tweak in personality. The guy who was hot-tempered, selfish, and deceitful was replaced by someone who was incredibly calm, mindful, and honest. The inner chaos had finally given way to inner peace. And he wasn't kidding when he said it was a big change. He described it as a complete 180, a total, fundamental reversal of who he was as a person, from a life centered on taking to a life centered on awareness. But here's the really crucial takeaway. Kunat's story, it isn't just about him. He truly believes it points to a potential that's inside every single one of us. And this quote says it all. It's his core message, and it's just so empowering. He's not trying to say he's special. In fact, it's the opposite. His logic is so simple, right? If that guy, the person he used to be, could pull this off, then hey, anyone can. So the ultimate lesson here is about where that change actually came from. Real, lasting happiness, he didn't find it by trying to change the world around him. He found it by changing his own awareness on the inside, by learning how to just be with himself, honestly, right here in the present moment. And so this whole incredible story really leaves us with a question to chew on.
Hun not found a whole new person inside himself when he finally just sat still and listened. So the question for you is, what do you think you'd find waiting for you in the silence?